He's the man behind the Emancipation Proclamation, the supposed savior of the Union, the face of Mount Rushmore and the penny. But beneath the marble idol was Abraham Lincoln. And who was Abraham Lincoln? What if we told you that same man we praise for preserving democracy may have undermined it more than any president before him? Welcome to Presidential Paradox, and today we explore both sides of the story of our 16th president. Abraham Lincoln was born in 1809 in a one-room log cabin in Kentucky. His mother died when he was 9. He grew up dirt poor with less than a year of formal schooling. He was self-taught with books, especially the Bible, Shakespeare, and law. Fun fact, Lincoln was an elite wrestler. Only one recorded loss in 300 matches, and he is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. He became a self-made lawyer in Illinois, and he gained attention for his eloquence, his debate skills, and a kind of awkward homespun charm. He rose through state politics to Congress, then faded into obscurity until the 1850s. His fiery opposition to slavery expansion in the Lincoln-Douglas debates made him a national figure, despite losing that Senate race. He wasn't the obvious choice. In fact, Lincoln was seen as a compromise candidate at the 1860 Republican Convention, less radical than Seward and more electable than Chase. His election was not a landslide. He won with less than 40% of the popular vote, thanks to a split in the Democratic Party. His victory directly triggered secession. 7 southern states left before he even got sworn into office. So why is Lincoln so highly praised? Well, the preserving of the Union. Through 4 years of the bloodiest war in American history, Lincoln never backed down from the idea that the Union must remain intact. Unlike many Northern leaders, he didn't believe the South should simply go away on its own. When the victory seemed far off, he was key to the Union's eventual success. Of course, another highlight is the Emancipation Proclamation, signed in 1863. It was a turning point where the war shifted from being about preserving the Union to more about abolishing slavery. This turned the moral tide and discouraged foreign support for the Confederacy, especially from Britain and France. It only applied to Confederate territory, but it set the path toward full abolition later on. And Lincoln was proven to be well-worded. The Gettysburg Address is less than 300 words, yet is still taught in schools today. His second inaugural address called for malice towards none, even as the war neared its end. And he communicated with clarity, humility, and humanity at a time of mass death and uncertainty for our nation. Now, what case can we make against Lincoln maybe not actually being one of the best presidents? Well, for one, suspension of habeas corpus. Lincoln suspended habeas corpus in 1861, which allowed the military to arrest and detain citizens without trial. This wasn't just for rebels. It was for anti-war politicians, newspaper editors, and dissenters. They were all imprisoned. The Constitution says only Congress can suspend habeas corpus, but Lincoln claimed it was wartime and it was necessary. Lincoln also expanded the executive power greatly. Lincoln essentially ruled by decree during key parts of the war. He declared blockades without congressional approval. He called up troops doing the same thing without approval, and he oversaw censorship of newspapers critical of him and the war. Historian Clinton Rossiter called him a dictator, but a dictator in time of need. Critics argue he laid the foundation for unchecked executive authority that future presidents would later exploit. Another point, the Emancipation Proclamation wasn't purely moral like some say it is. It was a strategic move, like playing chess. Lincoln repeatedly said his main goal was to preserve the Union and not to end slavery. The Emancipation only freed slaves in Confederate states, not in loyal border states like Kentucky and Missouri. He considered colonizing freed Black Americans outside the U.S. instead of doing this. Racial views. Lincoln did not believe in full racial equality either early in his career. In 1858, just a few years before the Civil War, he quoted, "I am not, nor even have been, in favor of bringing about in a way of social and political equality of blacks and whites." So even though Abraham Lincoln today is painted as this moral, just savior figure that freed the slaves, it's important to know the context that the Emancipation Proclamation was largely a political move to turn the tide of the Civil War. Yes, he did free the slaves. Yes, it did lead to the 13th Amendment. However, it wasn't completely driven by good morals, more so just a strategic chess play. Now, of course, a couple what ifs for the comment section below. What if the Union had lost the war? Would Lincoln have gone down in history as a failed tyrant compared to the savior that he is seen as today? Or had he lived through Reconstruction, would we have seen it go much more peaceful and just compared to how it would go under Andrew Johnson? I would love to hear y'all's discourse in the comments. All right, now it's time to grade Abraham Lincoln based on several presidential categories so we can put him on the presidential tier list and see where he falls. Now, the first category we are going to grade Lincoln on is Road to the White House. He did not come from an elite political lineage. He was a self-made man. He wasn't too politically savvy, though, losing more political races than he had won. And he only won the presidency due to party fractures and not a resounding political sweep. I'm going to give him a C+ for Road to the White House. Respectable, but not impressive by any means. Now, what about Abe's successes? He did save the Union. He did end slavery, and he reshaped national values. It's a towering legacy that cannot be denied. I have to give him A for successes. Now, what about Abe Lincoln's failures and controversies? He suspended many rights, had martial law, censorship, military arrests, and blurred the lines of constitutional governance. There's definitely a lot to criticize here, and I'm going to give him a D for failures and controversies. Now, what about his morality and ethics? He was involved meaningfully. He had some early racial problems, though, in his political career, and the pragmatic emancipation does muddy the waters a bit. It's hard to tell quite how moral or unjust he would have been or was. I'm going to give him a C, down the middle for morality. Now, what about Abe Lincoln's long-term impact? It's hard to ignore. He preserved the republic, inspired many future leaders, but also expanded the executive president permanently. I'm going to give him a very solid A. I would give him an A+, but some of the presidential powers he expanded prevents me from doing so. Now, what about his leadership and vision? He was calm, sharp, and principled when it mattered most, a reluctant warrior, but unwavering when necessary. I'll give him a very respectable B+ for leadership and vision. Now, what about public sentiment? He was deeply hated in his time by many and became a martyr afterwards, as he is very popular today. I'm going to give him a respectable B for public sentiment. And finally, constitutional respect. He took enormous liberties that still spark debate today. He had Congress or the court pushed back more. History could have gone very differently if he didn't kind of go a little radical in his head chair. So I'm going to give him D. He didn't respect the Constitution all that much at all. He just did what he saw fit during the war. Now, the final grade for Abraham Lincoln on the tier list is going to be a C+. Maybe shocking to some. I think he is an okay president, slightly above average, but based on some of the power grab stuff he did during the war, it's hard for me to put him above that C+ category. I know I'm probably very opposed on this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I just don't think he's on par with the B, A, or S tier presidents. Good, but not untouchable. Lincoln was a genius in crisis and one of the most important figures in American history, no doubt. But he governed with a level of executive power that should make all of us a little uncomfortable. He may be the best wartime president, but not necessarily the best constitutional one. Again, let me know what you think in the comments below. Hit me with that like button if you like the video in the series. If you want to see more of it, outdoor videos, or faith-related content, hit that subscribe button and join the Southern Woods community. And just like any other president, you need to be part of a secret society. Membership program link below. You get a lot of cool bonus content, get to see videos weeks ahead of time. It might be worth checking out. But anyways, I will see you on the next video. Southern Woods out.